Good morning. I'll call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Transportation Public Works Committee. Councilmember Reich, I'll be chairing the committee. I'm joined by my colleagues on the committee, Councilmember Palmisano, Gordon, and Bender, and we are a quorum and can proceed with today's business. We have 9 items. That includes a walk-on that's on the agenda. We'll make that number 8 and make 8 number 9. So it'll be number 8, which is a petition to acquire use of right-of-way of a rail line, and that is printed in red on your agenda. And so with that, I'll go through the consent items, including that new item. Anyone can pull an item if they wish. Item number 2 is 18th Avenue North Street Reconstruction Project. That's project layout and set of easements for that project that goes from Monroe Street Northeast to Johnson Street Northeast. Item 3 is the Central Quarter Light Rail Project Subordinate Funding Agreement with the Metropolitan Council. That'll be referred to Ways and Means Committee. Item 4 is accepting a little bit of Hewlett Brothers Trucking for an estimated annual expenditure of $500,000 to furnish and deliver labor and materials and incidentals for our water treatment distribution division. That'll be referred to Ways and Means Committee. Item 5 is a bid for FSP cones and influent flume rehabilitation projects, Phase 3. That'll be referred to Ways and Means. Item 6 is a bid for Pump Station 5 window replacement project. It's accepting a single bid of Marge Magson Construction Company for an estimated amount of $81,930. That'll be referred to Ways and Means Committee. Item 7 is a bid for revised signal system pedestrian curb ramp improvements. And that is going to be referred to the Ways and Means Committee as well. And then the walk-on item, which was a time-sensitive item consistent with our Access Minneapolis plan, is approving and authorizing the filing of a petition to acquire use of right-of-way of a rail line proposed to be abandoned for interim trail use and rail banking pursuant to F 49 CFR 1152.29, signed by the City Attorney's Office and submitted to the United States Surface Transportation Board on September 23rd, 2015. Those are the consent items. Does a committee member wish to pull any for discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. We can now move to our public hearing, which is the sanitary sewer availability charge, also known as the SAC charges. Good morning, Mr. Cockey.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Lisa Cerny, our Director of Surface Water and Sewers, will start the presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lisa Cerny. I'm the Director of Surface Water and Sewers. I'm here this morning to speak on behalf of the assessment for a single property in the total amount of $1,550 for fees related to the sanitary sewer access charge. The sanitary sewer availability charge, also known as SAC, is a fee that is imposed upon municipalities by the Metropolitan Council Environmental Services. They charge each municipality, and in the city of Minneapolis, we then therefore charge the property owner or person making that change. The Met Council therefore doesn't charge any individual properties directly. They also have a process by which they audit agencies, and so they'll go through records and look at various different things and sometimes find ones that have been missed or processes that have changed or varied. The one that I'm here on for today is a single business. They changed from a retail space to a coffee shop and created 10 seats, which equals 1 SAC unit. With that, I will take questions.
Pardon me. Any questions for the presentation? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. This is a public hearing, item number 1, sanitary sewer service availability charge assessments. Anyone signed in? No one signed in. Does anyone wish to come forward? Anyone wish to come forward? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and move the item before us for the presentation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries. We now go on to our last item, which is a discussion item regarding the University Avenue Innovation District redevelopment. And I believe this will be presented by Hyla Mays.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Hyla Mays from CPED will make the presentation.
And as committee members know, this has been presented several times and discussed quite thoroughly, so this will be a brief public works related overview to keep the process going.
Yes, thank you. As just said, this has been presented. This is actually the fourth time it's appeared in a committee, once at ZMP, then twice at CDNRS. So I will keep the overview to a minimum in terms of why we are here and the purpose of an innovation district. As all of you know, there's been a great deal of internal and external conversation about the expectations about this and what this could mean for the city. I will focus today on what it could mean for public works, especially the capital improvements planned. The district in question that we're talking about is probably familiar to you. It's the university area one that spans the St. Paul, Minneapolis boundary, but on our side, of course, focuses on the Prospect North area along the Green Line. The intent, again, is to foster an environment of innovation and change, of new growth and development that exceeds expectations, goes above what we would see as business as usual, and builds on the unique advantages of this location and of this city in partnership between the public, private, nonprofit sector, and of course, the university, the major research institution in our midst here. As mentioned before, this is an initiative that spans several committees and has been the subject of many discussions to sort of focus on what the public works and the capital structure is in terms of this area. There are very near-term and I would say ongoing obligations that have been taken place and have been part of this discussion. Public works staff and leadership have been involved in the partnership meetings and some projects that are currently underway. There have already been approvals in front of you related to 4th Street Southeast reconstruction, also known as Green 4th, and several other names. This is setting the stage for development in this area. The starting place, of course, for the city is what is our standards, what is our baseline requirements. But this resolution indicates the ability to have conversations over and beyond to say, how can the city's baseline investments, similar to elsewhere in the city, be leveraged and built upon with additional funding sources and additional resources to create something new and innovative, to incorporate best practices from elsewhere, and some different ways of handling the public realm and the infrastructure in a way that can serve this area. One particular example is district systems, and that's another ongoing discussion, has been with Public Works, related to the chance to do a sustainable district stormwater and wastewater treatment facilities in this area. There have been a lot of ideas versus reality on that, so it's still in process, not finalized, but this is a chance to sort of explore what's possible in this area. Another component that's ongoing is the assistance of technical assistance and studies as needed. As the resolution makes clear, this is not, at this point, obligating any new resources or any new effort over and above what's already in the works. But it does indicate that that should be part of the discussion to say, when is it appropriate to bring staff resources in? When does when can that advance this and similar areas in the city? As noted, this is about designating just one district, but as the innovation district language is written, it's never been the intent that this would be necessarily be the only one in the city. This could frame up the discussion for other areas with similar challenges and opportunities that could be designated in the future. In our larger presentation, we talked about some of those. I'll keep that minimum here, but that can be part of the discussion as well. Of course, the biggest question with this regards is to ongoing, not just what's ongoing, but what can come in the future. This does tee up the potential for additional asks and additional conversations around more resources, around more improvements. There are more anticipated in this area, and your packet outlines very generally some of the categories where those might be explored. Again, we have been emphasizing that this innovation district resolution by itself does not allocate any additional resources. It just sets the stage for those discussions in the future. And of course, it will have to take in case the other priorities in the city in terms of infrastructure needs and other investments. At this point, I will pause and see if that covers the basics and if there's any questions.
Any questions per the presentation? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
And I will move the item for approval. This is item number 9, a discussion. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much. I did want to mention a couple things. First of all, I'm incredibly excited about doing this. A few weeks ago, we did pass a resolution that we would create innovation districts, and we're going to make that part of the comp plan. And so this would make this the first innovation district we're going to try, which is a little bit ahead of the way we might want to do it. It's kind of one of those design build projects, I think. And so it's been a little bit difficult maybe landing here and getting here. I think this is incredibly significant because St. Paul's a partner, the University of Minnesota, all the property owners are at the table, and actually this is responding and trying to work with community members, which is really significant. One of the things I wanted to do at this meeting was kind of highlight the change that it took to get this through the resolution, just so that council members were informed about this, because there was kind of some meetings outside of the committee and we had to kind of come to terms. So there was the most significant thing that occurred is we actually took out something from the resolved clause. We had something in the resolution originally that said we wanted to investigate the feasibility of using some or all of the pooled TIF funds for the construction of other public infrastructure necessary to support development of the innovation district. It just so happens that there were TIF funds. There are TIF funds in this district. There are pooled resources accumulated to the about $5 million at this point, all for the intention of supporting streets and roads and infrastructure for economic development. We've kind of been waiting for several years for some kind of a workforce development project, bioscience, engineering, we don't know what. It hasn't happened. Some of those districts will be sunsetting at the end of the year. So essentially, we discussed this. I discussed it with council members and decided that the appropriate thing to do, in part, so that this could be passed, is to not fight to try to preserve some of those pooled resources, but to let some of those go back into the city coffers, into the general funds, or possibly recaptured for affordable housing throughout the city. There is still a little bit of the pooled TIF funding that will go till 2016, so hopefully that can be held over. But what that showed me was our philosophy, our discussion, our policies about TIF are confusing. It's unclear what we can and can't do with them. There's great opportunity here if we could use some kind of tax increment financing to make a park, to treat wastewater management, to actually build the streets that we need to get the development here. And I just because I think we've admitted that we don't need to investigate the feasibility of using the pooled TIF at this point, I hope that we're open to figuring out how we might be able to use the tool of tax increment financing for the greater good for this area and other areas in the future. What that teed up for me kind of is we maybe need to have a bigger discussion about what we're supposed to do about tax increment financing and what is the city policy here. Because just investigating the feasibility of using some of the resources that have been sitting there unused for all this time created such a stir up here. It showed me maybe we need to talk about that further. And I just wanted to highlight that for you guys on the committee today.
Councilmember Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've discussed this in several other instances, but I think it's important that it did come to the DPW committee because I think that actually the most significant pieces of the public component of this is the public infrastructure piece. And I have interacted with the Innovation District as a planning commissioner in my role as zoning and planning chair, where we have an area of the city where there are 3 transit stations and the private sector is responding to that. We are seeing projects coming through the approval process now. And we have private sector developers who are coming in and saying, we are having to design 2 stormwater management systems right now because we don't know if the city is going to be able to bring forward the support for the green shared district stormwater infrastructure that we are hoping to partner with the city on, and the private, and this pool of private sector developers who've been working with the partnership and Councilmember Gordon's office. So, a lack of clarity about the public sector's commitment is impacting real-time private sector projects right now. In fact, weeks ago, they were at the Planning Commission saying that. And so I hope this will help kind of unstick the ambiguity of our commitment to some of these public pieces, which will, I think, enhance the response that we're seeing from the private sector. I mean, we are seeing development here, but in order to fully maximize the potential of those 3 transit stations and the already significant public investment here, I think there are some things, particularly on the public infrastructure side, that have to do with the shared stormwater management, the roads that are needed to fill in the grid here, that, if the city doesn't bring that forward, there's really no one else in the position to do that. And to support, again, the significant amount of private investment that's going to be coming into this area that will increase our tax rolls. And of course, that is exactly the purpose of TIF, is to utilize future tax increment in order to finance public investment. So I'm glad we're having it in the TPW committee. My vote here today signifies that I think that this is an important piece of work for our Public Works Department to take on, and that I think we need to make sure that we are working together with this partnership that has come forward, a really community-driven process, and be a full supportive partner in this conversation.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That carries, and we are done with today's agenda, and we are adjourned.